I lift my hips, and I elevate up. This is an inside look into my practice, my personal yoga practice as a 58-year-old strength coach and yoga teacher. And what I'm trying to do with this series of videos, the ones where I show you my practice, is to show you how much fun and how good a yoga practice could be once you have built a base. And we have tons of classes on how to build a base, on how to build strength and mobility. But today, I just want to show you how much fun it could be. My plan for today is to practice for 12 minutes. And the way that I practice is I use a timer, and I set it for 12 minutes, and every minute there's a buzz. And I change or switch positions. The plan for today is to do a couple of bridges, a couple of wheels, a really good bow pose, and to talk you through my practice. I just want you to see how good a practice can be and how much fun it can be once you have that baseline of strength and mobility. But don't do what I do. Like, just follow along, get some insight, do what you do. Then we'll meet in another class and we'll build strength and mobility together. I just want to remind you that this is my practice, and I want you to do your practice. And the purpose of all of these videos is to kind of just give you an insider's look about what I do, and to give you the opportunity to ask me questions about my practice so you can apply it to your practice. So I start on all fours. My timer is on, my toes are tucked under, and right away I round my back, drop the head, and then I go circles. And I'm going to do all circles to one direction for the full minute. And what that does, it tires me out a little bit, but it also energizes me. And I also know that so often when we're doing these kind of exercises, we do once or twice, it never really does anything. But when we stay with something, right, long enough for it to work, it'll make a real difference. Now, if I was teaching this to someone, I would teach them this, but I would have them do it 4 times or 8 times. And then we would build up to doing it more times, of working within the confines or the boundary of a minute. And I just love using the timer because I don't have to count. I know that when it buzzes, I get to switch sides. And I'm pulling my ribs up, I'm letting this be a little bit sloppy, and I'm just enjoying moving my back in multiple directions. Oh, I'm going the other way. So the timer buzzed, and I can go slow, I can go fast, I can talk, I can be quiet. But I really just want to chat about practice, about your practice, about my practice, about why I do the things I do, and why perhaps you should choose something different, easier, harder, faster, slower, I don't know. But there's so many options when it comes to practice. And what I'm trying to do is show you how many options there are. And I'm just going to keep circling, right? And again, staying with this long enough for it to work. It's also warming up my hands. It's warming up my hips. It's warming up my feet. And as I do this, I notice that one direction feels easier than the other, which is why we do both directions. Now I come to the center and I flip my hands. And I always take something or do something to warm up my wrists and my hands. I bend my elbows, and I'm just going to go back and forth. And if I'm feeling really adventurous, I take my palms up and I stretch my fingers, right? And I teach tons of classes where we spend so much time on hands and wrists because we tend to text and type way too much, but we don't put our hands, our fingers, right, through its optimal range of motion, and then we wonder why we feel so stiff in the hands. So just think about, this doesn't have to be as severe or as intense or as long as what we're doing, as what I'm doing right now, but what could you do today, and if we have time I'll show you some more stuff, to help get some of that achiness out of your hands. And when it comes to hands and wrists and fingers, sometimes we don't even know the achiness is there, it's so tight. I'm going to get a few more times, maybe swing back a little bit more. Whew. Yay. Toes are tucked under, coming up into my first functional down dog. So why do I call this functional down dog? Because I think that every down dog you do can have a different reason or a different goal or a different experience. And we get so caught up into the right way of doing down dog, whether we have to get the legs super straight, get the heels down, drop the head. There's so many different ways. We think it's the only way. But there's, just like there's so many dogs in the world, right? And they're all beautiful in their own way. Your dog can look different than someone else's, and it can have a different reason. Like right now, the purpose of this dog is to enjoy the stretch of the space coming into my hands and wrists from the warm-up. I'm going to drop my head, I'm going to pull my hips back. For today, I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to stick my butt out a little bit and enjoy the strength and length of this down dog. We're going to be doing one more down dog after this, but it's going to be a special one where the feet are flipped. So both sets of toenails are down. And the feet are really flat. So if I hadn't done this for a while, I would do one side at a time, but I'm going to get a little bit adventurous and come up with both feet flipped, like this. And there might be a couple of snap, crackle, pops, especially with my 58-year-old joints. But it feels so good to stretch the feet like this. But if I was teaching this in a class, we were just starting out, or I hadn't done this in a while, we would do 1 foot at a time. And I'll show you that in a video, right? Or ask me about that, and I'll give you a demo. Bring your attention to your heels, and notice that your heels tend to sickle out, so pull them in. And what we're doing is, or what I'm doing, is getting the gnarliness out of the feet. Pulling my hips back. And when we first start working with the feet, sometimes it's a little bit too much, do less. No worries at all. From here, I'm going to come over to my back. Head down, and I'm going to go right into a moving bridge pose, which means my feet are turned out. It looks like, if you look at me from the ceiling, it looks like Y, and I'm going to come right up. Right. Rolling the shoulders out. Letting go of any need for things to be linear or perfect. There's no such thing as a straight line in nature, so I'm just letting it flow. I'm going to round my back, and I'm going to notice the pulsing in my feet, the pulsing in my hands. I'm just going to pause here, right? Letting the minute be. Starting to slow my breath down. Maybe lifting my hips up a little bit more. Knowing that this is a quick practice for me, and I'm warmed up and ready to backbend. And it's not that I just had a quick practice or a warm up today to get me ready to backbend. I've had lots and lots of practices to get me ready for today, and that's how it works. It's like the solid ground beneath your feet, and that's what practices are doing. You're building them up. It's like you're planting seeds, and things bloom. Just stay with a practice long enough for it to work. I'm going up into a parallel bridge. I'm digging into my heels. I'm rounding my back. My arms are relaxed. I'm going to start to tilt my pelvis. So that means I'm pulling my hip bones towards me, gently squeezing my bum. In lots of the classes that we teach, that we do together, we squeeze a ball, we use a brick, we use a band. You know, if you're not my student, you should be my student because we have so much fun. But today, no props at all. Just staying with something long enough to have an experience in the body. I'm starting to kind of get a little bit sloppy in this back bend, so I'm going to dig into my inner heels and come up a little bit higher. All right, we're turning these into wheels. My hands are underneath my shoulders, and my wrists, remember, are warmed up. My elbows are pointing pretty much up, my toes are pointing pretty much forward, and I'm going to bring myself up into a bridge and then push myself up into a wheel. I'm going to turn my feet in, not because they have to be turned in, but I want to hit the inner hip, the inner thigh, and get a little bit different back bend going today. So you'll notice I'm rocking side to side with my feet, turning my feet in. And what I'm doing is I'm just hitting a different aspect of this back bend. And of course I do these most days, so I just want to have a different experience today. Moving and rocking side to side, lifting my toes. If I was teaching this in a class situation, we might do this, 4 times and come down. We would do a whole set of preliminary warm-ups and strength and mobility drills to get ready for this. But this is my practice, and I was ready. So we're going to slowly come down. And I'm going to take a second here. We're going to do one more of those wheels. Except this time, we're going to bring the feet a little bit narrower. So it's like we're in a very narrow tunnel. And I'm going to roll my shoulders down my back, press into my hands, and come up into now a parallel bridge. And just take a look at my feet. This is a not parallel bridge. This is a parallel bridge. Which one is better? The one that you're doing right at the moment. There's all types of bridges. And remember the purpose of a bridge. It's to get you from where you are to where you want to go. But let's also remember, you want your bridge to be sturdy and strong enough so that you're also able to return back. I know that's a metaphor. Use that all the time. Remember, the goal of a bridge is to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And how lucky are we, or me, that I can talk nonstop during my favorite pose. I'm going to slowly come down. I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to check my timer. It looks like we have 3 more minutes, which is super fabulous. My hands are in front of my shoulders. I'm going to come into what we like to call a deep cobra. So if this was too deep for me, I would take my hands more in front, right? And again, it's all about what works for you today. And I'm going to just slowly rock side to side, enjoying the stretch and the space in my hips. And as I do that, I'm going to start to turn my shoulders into kind of like a figure 8. So if someone was looking at me from the ceiling, they think, oh, she's drawing a figure 8 with her shoulders. And what we're looking for right now is just to feel better in the body. And that's really what it's all about. But to feel better in the body, we need to be strong. We need to be flexible, and we need to be mobile. So lots of classes and lots of practices and lots of training routines that we do together is to build strength and flexibility progressively and intelligently. Today, backbend practice, we're having fun. We're going to slowly come down. I'm going to grab my shins. I'm going to turn this into a bow pose. I'm going to pull my shoulders back. I'm going to try and escape my hands, right? So my shins are kicking back. And I'm simply going to breathe. Maybe I'm going to lift my legs a little bit higher. And then I'm going to gently, and it's kind of a beginner instruction, but experienced students do it all the time, and they should. I'm going to gently pull my belly up into my back. And what that does, it stops the excessive bend of the back, and it redistributes the emphasis or the distribution of weight in this back bend. So try that cue if you're doing a bow pose, right? So you come into your back bend and then draw your belly up just a little bit away from the mat. Love these. And I'm going to slowly come down. I'm going to bring myself up, and I'm going to sit in any seated position. And I have 1 more minute left to my practice. So I'm going to go side to side. And this is so simple, but it feels so good after a couple of back bends. What I'm doing is I'm reaching my arm over my head to the side, but at the same time, you can't see it, I'm anchoring my opposite hip down. So I'm reaching over, right? And then this hip, I'm pushing down. That feels so good. And again, I say this all the time, but the way we get movements like this and movements like the back bends that we did to feel good is by building strength and mobility. And we have tons of classes and practices for that. Thank you for letting me share my practice with you today. Reach out with any questions, right? Don't ask me about how to landscape a house or how to wash the dishes or how to cook a meal. Ask me about this. This I know. Again, reach out with your questions. I am here.